Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to 𝗏𝗵𝗶𝗃 Unplugged, the podcast where we groove into the latest tech trends and vibe with the flow of cloud possibilities. I'm your host, 𝗏𝗶𝗃𝗀𝗨, aka Cloud Dude, and I'm pumped to be here with y'all. And we're back at it today with an episode about chaos in the world of virtualization, the future of cloud computing, and a super cool and disruptive company called Nutanix. I'm sure you heard a lot of chaos going on after Broadcom's acquisition of VMware and all those front page horror stories where customers are fleeing the apocalypse of VMware renewals. But where are they going really? Well, that's what we're going to discuss today. And for that, we're joined by someone who works for Nutanix all the way from New Zealand, but he's also an Aussie, so it's an Aussie/Kiwi from the land of kiwis and crocodiles, maybe also in Australia. My guest is no other than Michael Webster, aka 𝗏𝗶𝗶𝗆𝗀. You'll tell me more about it. A principal enterprise architect from Nutanix. I'm so excited for this one. I can't tell you how long I've been waiting to talk about Nutanix. Hi, Michael, and how are you?
I'm great. Thank you very much. And thanks for inviting me on the podcast.
My pleasure, Michael. Glad to have you with us, really.
That was a very good intro.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I tried my best, although I had to update the last part. I didn't know you were both Aussie and Kiwi, but that's always good.
Most people don't, and they always get it confused, and then they always say sorry when they call me an Aussie and find out I'm a Kiwi, but then I laugh because I'm both.
Yeah, so maybe next time people will start to call you Ziwi or Cozy. We'll definitely need to find something.
Yeah.
All right. I just have first my usual icebreaker question is, how did you get into tech and what's your story with Nutanix? I know you've been there for a while now, but could you tell us actually how did you get into tech and Nutanix story as well?
Sure. I think I got into tech when I was still at high school. Okay. And this is a long time ago now. I was building computers for a retail shop when that was still a thing before the mass manufacturing and cheap imports from China. Mm-hmm. And that's really where I got started. And then from there, I went to help build an ISP. And we built one of the first ISPs in New Zealand.
Wow.
And that was really successful. And then from there, I went overseas. I worked as an IT manager in the UK and Europe. And then came back to New Zealand, did a whole bunch of projects, did some financial services stuff. And the financial services project led me to get headhunted to VMware as a consultant and running their professional services business.
I see.
And that was 2010, I think.
Okay.
And then I was at VMware for 4 years and then working at VMware and starting a blog and becoming a VMware certified design expert. Mm-hmm. And my business was sort of global at that stage. So I was going all over the world as one of the subject matter experts for virtualizing the impossible.
Wow.
So when the New York banks ring up and say, we've got this trading platform we want to virtualize, or we've got this SAP HANA system we want to virtualize, or we've got this oil and gas thing that we want to virtualize, we want to migrate from a mainframe, they would call me.
Damn.
Because those were the sorts of things I'd already done. Virtualizing SAP since 2006, since before it was supported.
Wow.
All of the hard enterprise stuff came my way globally. Oof. And then one day Nutanix decided they wanted to do something different. One of my friends from Australia moved over to Nutanix and he was talking to me one Saturday morning. And they were talking about end-user computing and VDI, and I'm like, what are you talking about this stuff for? You just explained the architecture. This is perfect for enterprise applications. You guys are completely missing the big picture here. And then I got on the call with the CEO, and I told the CEO of the company, this is the original founder, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, you guys are missing a trick. You're missing a big business opportunity. You don't really know what you're doing. And you should really be going after enterprise applications because you've got a perfect platform that's resilient, that scales linearly, that you can just add to when you need to, start at any size and grow.
Wow.
And this is exactly what enterprise applications need. So 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 headhunted me to go work for Nutanix. And I've always been based in New Zealand, apart from that brief stint in the UK. So, and even when I was at VMware, I was based in New Zealand. So I'm like this remote guy in the most remote part of the world.
You bet.
So people ask, do you live in New Zealand or do you live on Air New Zealand? And for many years, that was a hard question to answer. And more recently, it's also living on Emirates because Emirates is the easiest way to get to Europe from New Zealand, pretty much. that's the short version of how I got into tech. It's been a long road now. I've been in tech for over 20 years. I've worked on some amazing projects in all different parts of the world, pretty much every continent except for Antarctica. That's the only one I haven't been to yet.
You know why.
But who knows what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah, and it's been a great journey. And I've been at Nutanix now for more than 10 years. It's coming up 11 years in November.
Wow, congrats.
So the company was really, really tiny when I joined. Like I would have been within the first few hundred employees that joined.
Wow.
And I really joined to help build the company because I saw such a massive opportunity. And it's been really good to see that come to fruition. And that's really why I'm still here, because we're just getting started. It really feels like we're back to the startup days where everything's just exploding. It's really exciting.
It's insane.
And it's growing super fast. Yeah, it is.
It is really insane. So you actually asked for it because you talked to the CEO and he told him, like you're missing here, like a big chunk of the enterprise pie in the market. So CEO didn't have choice.
He was one of my referrals.
Right?
He was one of my referrals, actually. So the CEO was one of my referrals and so was my other friend. So it was still a massively long hiring process because you go through like 70 panel interviews and all sorts of
that
things.
Much?
It's very much like the Microsoft and AWS. No, it's like 7 or 10 panel process.
I didn't know.
And that was before in person as well.
Would do that. I mean, because back then it was the early years, early stage. I thought it would be split.
That's why they need to go through that and be so careful, because you got to grow fast, right?
Okay.
And if you're so small, you need to get the best talent on board, because if you make a mistake at the early stage, the company's not going to be successful long term.
Got you.
And we were working 100-hour weeks was regular for 4 years straight.
Wow.
There was no breaks.
Wow.
I think one year I did 300,000 miles of travel.
Did your wife forgive you?
Yeah, that's just normal startup. She did, but that was half of what I did the previous year at VMware.
Okay. Because 100 is
that was one of the reasons I made the change from VMware.
So what?
Nutanix.
She was grateful?
I did 500,000 miles. Yeah, she was very grateful. I was only traveling half the time.
Damn. That's
See, setting expectations. That's the key.
Yeah, right. When you go from worse to just bad, it's still an improvement, right?
Yeah, it's a lot better now. I have a lot more frequent family points than I have frequent flyer points now, thanks to the pandemic.
That's great, amazing. And I guess now we get way more people like 10 years later, and like you don't have 17 panel interviews to hire people. Otherwise, it'd be
for engineering. It's still pretty tough. I'm not familiar with the sales and hiring process.
So how many rounds for an engineer right now in 2024?
At least be 3 or 4.
3 or 4. Okay.
3 or 4 rounds. Okay. Yeah.
That's still better than 7.
But we do a lot of work with universities around the globe. So that helps. There's like an internship process. So if you get on the internship track, then we've basically got a 3-month interview there.
Amazing.
Because you're basically, you're doing stuff for 3 months, and then we're able to vet the candidates out, and then the best ones will join and the other ones will go off and use that experience to start their careers elsewhere.
You bet.
So it's a good process.
Absolutely. And that's like a probation interview.
Pretty much, yeah. And the company is a lot bigger than when I joined. We're not a few hundred people now. We're like 7.5 plus.
Were you the
people.
Employee number 200, 150?
418 officially is my employee number.
Okay.
But the first 200 were reserved for the US.
Oh, okay.
So we don't actually know how many people there were.
Right.
But I can tell you there was less than 500. I think it was probably 200 or 300 at the time.
Wow. Okay.
I seem to recall that our annual revenue was about 13 million at the time globally. And now we're getting on to like 2 billion.
Yes, today. It's going up. And we know why it's going up.
It's still growing.
You got to thank all the some people for that, especially lately. Perfect. I'm really impressed by the journey and the kind of experience you had. Totally makes sense. And my first question, technical question, since I told you that my audience is a bit eclectic, can you talk a little bit about hyper-converged infrastructure, HCI? Can you explain like the infrastructure or the fundamentals of that technology?
Yeah, this really takes me back to when I first joined Nutanix, because it was shortly after the company was founded. We were founded in 2009. by a group of engineers that came out of Google, Facebook, Oracle.
Interesting.
And the idea was to do enterprise infrastructure in a different way, but taking the lessons from the cloud and the hyperscalers. So we started basically as a cloud company ever since the start.
Okay.
The premise behind the company is Google's got the Google file system, Facebook's got the thing that they do.
Yeah.
Why can't these work for different types of workloads?
Sure.
Because, you know, it uses industry standard hardware and it's modular and it scales out and it can grow to any scale. And we know that, you know, Google and Facebook and the cloud and everything just works. That's already been proven. Can we take those types of technologies and apply them in a way that works for an enterprise?
Yeah.
And also the iPhone had just been created in like 2007 and it was just becoming popular as well. And the iPhone had converged so many different technologies into one device.
Yes.
That it basically made all those other technologies obsolete.
True.
So, you know, that was part of the premise behind the entire company was, well, can we converge all of these things together and just get rid of all the unnecessary complexity and all the unnecessary parts and make something that's really super easy and super simple to use that can run on, in theory, any type of industry standard hardware, commodity hardware, or whatever the customer chooses, and make it easy to scale out, grow, and to manage, and basically make the iPhone of the data center. That was the original idea behind the company. So this cloud-style hyperscale scale-out architecture with linear performance improvement as soon as, you know, every node that you add was perfect for VDI. So that's, you know, where the company started. And then when I came in, like I said, you know, enterprise apps work perfectly. And it should be no surprise now that Kubernetes or containerized everything works perfectly on Nutanix as well.
Sure.
Because it's the same hyperscale architecture that it's always been. It's just we've modernized it now over the last 10 years. So that's really hyper-converged infrastructure in a nutshell. It's smart software, industry standard hardware, converging compute, networking, and storage all in one, easy to manage, simple to operate platform. Non-disruptive, always available is the idea. Even developers could run it if they really wanted to. It's meant to be API-driven, you know, one-click operations for everything. That's the idea, because you shouldn't need infrastructure to be complicated to get the business outcome that you need.
Yeah.
You know,
interesting. Yeah.
You don't have engineers going through and managing 3-tier in a hyperscale data center. So why would you have all of this complexity in your own data center?
It's all in one tier.
It is. Everything's all in one.
Compute, storage, memory,
correct.
All that in one tier.
Hypervisor, the whole lot.
Right.
Absolutely. And we started off OEMing VMware on the platform. So it used to ship with VMware out of the box as the hypervisor for the Nutanix HCI platform. That's how HCI started. And it's still, the underlying fundamentals are still the same today. The difference is now we can run it anywhere. So not just in your own data center, but it can run in a bare metal service on the hyperscale cloud like AWS or Azure. It can run in a colo. It can run at Equinix bare metal. There's many other clouds that are coming up that are working with us where there's going to be offerings. So you take the same concept, it runs any application, and now it runs anywhere. But it's the same interface, the same APIs, the same consistent, predictable approach.
Same experience.
Exactly. Same experience, any location.
Interesting. My next question is around the understanding of Nutanix. And what exactly is Nutanix? Because I used to hear one version where I would assume that it's primarily a hardware platform.
It used to be.
Despite being labeled a software first company, right? So there's a sort of maybe a misconception, if I can say so, at some point. Am I right?
Yeah. We started off as an appliance company. So we'd sell the software and the hardware as one bundle because that was the easiest and simplest way of consuming the solution.
Of course.
And so we could ensure predictability and supportability. Because if you're a really small company, you can't do too much variation. So you really need to find product market fit.
Agree.
And you need to find that killer app that's really going to grow the company, and then you can offer more choice and more capabilities as you grow. So we started off as an appliance, which was very much like the iPhone at that point. So it was software and hardware in one, and it was one SKU that you bought, maybe a few different configuration options, but not very many. And it was purpose built for the sort of use cases that we're going after. And then as the company grew and changed over time and customers wanted more choice and they wanted to put more use cases on Nutanix as they became more comfortable with the whole architecture and way of operations, then we changed to more of a like a software company. And that's where we started working with the likes of Dell and HP and Lenovo and some of the other OEM companies and packaging our software with their hardware, but it was still an appliance. So it was just the first stages of moving from a fully appliance Nutanix only hardware option to having more optionality around hardware. But it was still an appliance form factor, it was still an appliance sales model. And then we changed the company again and we went to a software only model.
Wow.
So we moved away from recognizing any revenue from hardware and we went to software only revenue recognition. So even the Supermicro, which was the the brand behind the Nutanix platform, it's not the same Supermicro that you can just go out and buy.
Really?
It is engineered by Nutanix. We do all the hardware engineering, Supermicro manufacture to our specifications. So it's not like you can just go buy a Nutanix node from Supermicro because it doesn't exist. So they're a contract manufacturer for our specs. But we moved away from just doing
hardware,
Supermicro and recognizing that revenue. And then our software went on many, many different platforms. So that was the sort of the next step. And then 𝗏𝗏, who was still the CEO at the time, he joined the board of Adobe. And he's like, Adobe's just gone 100% subscription. Why don't we transform the company again and go 100% subscription? And that is a very difficult transition.
Interesting.
It's a very difficult transition because of the way the revenue gets recognized and the way the financials work. So we knew that was going to be a really hard time. And, we transformed 3 times. This is our 4th transformation. We've built up some institutional, resilience now.
You bet.
And we thought that was the way forward because we thought that software is going to go subscription everywhere. That seemed to be the logical trend in the market.
Yeah, SaaS is everywhere right now.
And it would allow us to run everywhere. Yeah. So that the cloud thing was already in the spotlight at the time, and it seemed logical to us that we would end up running our software in lots of different locations and lots of different form factors. So that subscription transition made sense, and then it meant that our licensing for our customers was portable, so the same license could run anywhere at any time and be mobile.
Nice.
And the other companies at the time that were saying they're subscription based, they weren't really, because they were just selling a perpetual license with support and everything afterwards.
Like VMware.
But their license weren't portable. So, yeah, exactly. But their licenses weren't portable. So if you wanted to go into the cloud, you had to buy everything from scratch again.
Wow.
And then some of the hyperscalers that were trying to go on-prem because they wanted to compete against what we were doing as well. So one of the big hyperscalers, you can deploy our kit on-prem, but you still have to pay all the infrastructure and all the cloud pricing, even though it's in your own data center.
Wow.
So you get none of the on-prem benefits or anything. So it was kind of weird. So anyway, the subscription transitions has worked, and our customers really love the mobility options that it gives them, and they keep buying. So that's good. And we keep getting new customers, which is good as well.
Absolutely. But guess what? I have the perfect follow-up question for you. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the VMware situation. With Broadcom's VMware recent fiasco, I would call it not just acquisition, because some customers actually are really sharing some crazy numbers where they have 15x higher costs on renewal, especially since they changed the pricing model, and clients running away from skyrocketing bills. And how is the business at Nutanix right now?
Well, based on our last earnings call, very good.
There you go.
And, we publish our earnings results every quarter. Our CEO is on the earnings calls, and he talked about this situation. And we really empathize with the customers that are forced to make some difficult decisions. And it was really an interesting, probably 24 months before the acquisition actually closed. It's like for so long, a lot of the customers, we really thought it wasn't going to happen. And then as soon as it happened, they're like, oh shit, now we've really got to do something about it. And we don't know what we're going to do about it. And so some of them were prepared because they basically did a 3-year renewal before the acquisition closed. So they thought we're okay for 3 years. But then they've suddenly realized, oh, hang on, to change our environment if we need to, it's going to take us 3 years. We better start thinking about it now. So even though they thought they bought themselves some runway, in reality, because of how complicated and challenging things are at enterprise at scale, they realized that transition period is going to be quite challenging, and especially for the big banks, where they need to go through a very careful certification process, very careful security processes, and everything like that. It takes a long time to really get a new solution to be production ready in their environment. It's like an 18-month process in most cases.
That's scary.
So they're really looking for optionality. They're looking for leverage, so they can at least hedge their bets. So, the really, really large, top 100 organizations are never going to go 100% for one company, especially not now with this experience, because it gives them too much commercial risk.
What do you think of the situation, though? What do you think of what's going on? Does that make any sense business-wise to change completely the pricing model or even the messaging toward the customers, where they're dreading the day of the renewal? If they know it's in 1 year, they're like, oh, what's going to happen? And you only hear those stories where it's 5 times more, and they got rid of all the partners. They terminated all the partners' terms.
Yeah, they terminated all the agreements. They terminated all the service
This
providers.
is not just the customers; it's also the partner channel.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, and
it's huge.
Now, apparently, I hear like all the small partners, they don't mean much for them anymore, and they just rely on how they call them, pinnacle partners only, and couldn't actually resell. They have to buy licenses from pinnacle partners, which used to be their competitors.
That's right.
Could you make sense of?
There's no deal reaches anymore that they get. They get no pricing benefits.
What's your take on this?
Well, I mean, I think it was pretty well telegraphed. I mean, Hock Tan said he was only going to focus on the top 2,000 customers globally, and he didn't really put a priority on anybody else.
Yeah.
And they wanted to massively simplify their business and have basically 2 offers, and that's it. So you've got VMware Foundation, and then you've got Cloud Foundation, VCF. And he wants everybody to go to VCF, and that's it. Damn. So from their perspective, that's massively simplified everything from a business side of things. They have a tradition of not really doing a lot of R&D. And they just really focus and optimize, and
milking the cow.
If you don't fit in, if you don't fit into the bucket that they're prioritizing, you're out of the bucket. Yeah. And I really sympathize with the customers. It's made very, very tough choices for the customers, and I've always been customer first. Yeah.
Speaking of which, I've been starting to read a lot of articles about clients switching to Nutanix. One of them is a big firm in Australia. You may be familiar with. And also, I heard recently about Treasure Island Resort, and that actually kicked them out.
They literally did it over weekends. They did the migration over a weekend without any downtime.
Zero downtime. Yeah. It's crazy. And then 24,000 VMs just switched like this from VMware to Nutanix. How does that happen?
There's a lot of planning and architecture that goes in before that comment from CIOs. There's a lot of planning and robust process that goes in beforehand. But yes, that is absolutely what's happening. And while we've got some really good technology, Nutanix Move really helps a lot with the situation. So we can do pre-syncing of the applications before they move, and there's also a failback process. And then it's just it's basically a switchover process where you basically click a button, and within a couple of seconds, it's running on the Nutanix platform, and then you can test it. And if anything goes wrong, you fail back. But this doesn't have to just be from VMware to Nutanix. It can be from VMware to Nutanix on AWS or Azure. It can be VMware to Nutanix on-prem or in colo. It can be from Nutanix to something else as well.
Wow.
So this whole philosophy of not locking the customers in is basically in our DNA. We want to provide that choice and mobility from location to location, because ultimately we're in the business of supporting our customers' needs. And we want to make that process non-disruptive and straightforward. And that's what we've proven being able to do with these really large critical workloads. Like casinos can't go down. They're 24/7 by 365. Yeah. There is no maintenance windows. It's the same with banking.
Course.
There's no maintenance windows.
You bet.
Everything's running 24/7. Healthcare is the same. I've been on a lot of those projects, especially with the very, very large enterprises. One of our most recent customer deals is for a customer that's a very large financial institution, one of the top in the world, has 128,000 databases. And, it's a multi-phase approach, and a lot of those are going to land on Nutanix. And it's going from VMware to AHV. And that's a freaking massive environment. 128,000 databases.
Wow.
Thousands and thousands of servers. And all of those opportunities have opened up largely, I mean, a lot because of the robustness of our platform, but also thank you, Broadcom.
Yeah. Well, I guess we got to thank them. We got to mention them at least. We got to give them a thanks here in this podcast.
Yeah, it's really, really helped.
And enjoy it.
I think it's really important that we don't get complacent, though, because as soon as you get complacent,
of course,
that's the start of the end. So we've always got to be hungry and humble and honest about what we can and can't do and really go on the journey with our customers.
Yeah.
Because you can just go to AWS, you just go to Azure, OCI or Google or whatever, right? Even though, we're being very successful. Yeah. So we've got to be the best option. We've got to provide the best support, and we've got to maintain our paranoia and not get complacent the entire time. Because you could just buy a 1 year subscription and then cancel at the end if you want.
Definitely.
We don't want that. We want customers to be with us for the long haul and still be paranoid, but still give them the options of getting out of
course. Of course. And you just mentioned that at some point, VMware people called you and told you not to use their hypervisor in your appliances.
Yeah, they didn't want us shipping with it.
You didn't want to ship? Okay. Because what I heard is that you got to still thousands of customers that are running. You can run VMware on Nutanix. It's possible to run VMware workload on Nutanix infrastructure, right? Can you explain the concept of invincible infrastructure? What is this?
Well, it was invisible, not invincible, but it is invincible as well.
I don't know.
Because, protecting data.
Excuse my typo, Matt. It didn't read well.
So we're just trying to make it so that you didn't have to worry about the infrastructure. The infrastructure takes care of itself because it's so easy to manage and update and keep modern. And the thing is, when you go into a Nutanix environment, you never ever have a forklift upgrade again.
Oh.
So with a 3-tier environment, every 3 or 5 years, you've got to replace everything. And this is a big migration process. There's a lot of planning activities and everything that goes on. In a hyper-converged environment, that never happens because you eject the old node and you put the new node in. That's it. And there's no disruptive anything.
That's insane.
The whole 6-12 month refresh cycle every 3 to 5 years just doesn't happen anymore.
Oh, okay.
So that was part of it, and having VMware on there by default gave us the hypervisor layer that we didn't have at the time, and that's the reason we needed VMware. But after the company really started taking off, and VMware decided that they wanted to get in on the storage business as well, they wanted to make it really difficult for us to grow. So they decided to not allow us to OEM the hypervisor anymore, and I can get it from their perspective because we weren't actually selling VMware licenses when we were shipping the boxes. The license sale came afterwards because we gave that revenue to our partners. Because we're a 100% partner-driven organization. We do no direct sales at all.
So it's a partner's job.
So it's a partner's job to sell the license. We do all the support, but the partners sell the license and they get all the revenue. So there was like, yeah, but you're not selling any licenses. And that's the only thing we recognize you as a partner is if you sell license. And so we don't want you to OEM the hypervisor anymore. Your customers can install it after the fact and that's fine. And so that's sort of what started that process off. So then our foundation software, which allows bare metal provisioning or cloud provisioning now, came from. We wrote that basically over the weekend, and by the Monday after getting that phone call, we had a solution ready to go. And, we kept on growing. And then we kicked off the HV project. We kicked off working with Microsoft around Hyper-V. But you can still run VMware even today on Nutanix, and there's no problem.
That's what I want to just set the record straight. You have still to this day customers that have
thousands of
VMware hypervisor vSphere running with
Nutanix storage,
right?
Yep, absolutely. Lots of big enterprises.
Got you.
Yep.
Got you.
And it's really up to the customer to choose.
Yeah.
So there's a funny story about that actually. Because we allow VMware to run on Nutanix. You don't have to run on Nutanix. You can run it on 3-tier, right? So if you're a customer and you're considering Nutanix and you've got your VMware account rep coming in, and they know that you can switch to AHV by clicking a button and do it over the weekend, and you've got a Nutanix mug on your desk, and you're drinking coffee out of your Nutanix mug.
Oh man,
that's literally saved customers millions of dollars because VMware know that you can change because we made it so easy. So now they're more likely to be flexible.
Yeah. That's the story about the $1 million mug?
The $1 million mug, exactly.
Yeah.
Correct.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So it gives you a lot more leverage. So that's another thing that Nutanix provides. It just provides commercial leverage and provides reduced risk because, VMware know damn well you can switch.
Yeah.
All the cloud providers know damn well you can switch. You don't get locked into any one platform, any one location.
That's the thing.
We're like the mobility platform for enterprise
You're agnostic.
workloads. We're agnostic. Yeah.
Crazy. Cool. Now, I would like to explore the Nutanix hardware because I learned about Nutanix back in 2016, and the first videos were just explain the hardware part where you got that blade and everything. Could you break down what a single Nutanix blade consists of, like highlighting its Lego-like modularity? I know we're going back in time.
It's like a Lego. It's like a Lego block.
Yeah.
And so there's a concept of a node and there's a concept of a block.
Okay.
And when we first started, our blocks consisted of 4 nodes and 2 rack units. So that was kind of unique at the time as well, because it was a very small modular form factor, and you could get an awful lot of power out of 2 rack units. You could run hundreds and hundreds of virtual machines in just 2 rack units and a few hundred watts of power.
Definitely.
Which was great for customers that wanted to, optimize their data center power usage and cooling. So that's where we started. And then you could just scale out multiple blocks. You didn't have to fully populate the block. You could just put in 3 nodes to start and then scale out from there as you need. But that was the original building block that we had, and that's the reason why it's called a block, because it's like a building block, like a Lego brick. And then the nodes would fit inside that. So a Nutanix environment is a cluster of nodes. So it's a distributed software system where the software controller runs on each of the nodes that provides local storage, and the software controller forms a cluster across all of those nodes across a enterprise network. So hopefully a fast enterprise network. And then it can scale out to whatever the limits are that is needed. And so that was the original form factor. And then as we transitioned, we offered multiple different types of form factors. So now you can do 1 node or 2 node or 3 node if you're in a very small, isolated or specialized environment. Like if you're in the back of a truck in the middle of a mine site, 3,000 meters above sea level. If you're out on an oil rig in the middle of the sea somewhere, we've got units that can fit that use case. And we still have the 4 nodes and 2 rack units form factor. And we also have a single node and 1 U, or a single node and half a rack unit, or a single node and 2 rack units, or in the really, really big nodes that run the SAP HANA databases, it could be 4 rack units for a single node. So there's lots of different form factors now.
So the U blade, when you talk about node, just want to confirm what I understood, is like a compute, but it has CPU, RAM, and also flash storage.
And local storage.
Right. So that's a node. That's like a physical server. We're not talking about partitioning like the 𝗨𝗏 or really a physical node.
It's a physical server.
But within a U blade, right? It's like you have 3 server and 1 U blade.
Yeah, or 4 servers and
4 servers.
2 U blades for
4 servers. So just for the audience to understand that, like the U blades, when we talk about the node, it's like a full server with everything that's required in terms of resources, CPU, RAM, and flash SSD, right?
And if you looked at it from the front, you wouldn't even know that it was more than 1 server, because all you see at the front is the disks.
Yeah.
And all those disks are directly mapped to one of those blades. And the blades just pull out of the back and pop in, and they're all hot swappable.
Yeah.
And then they directly connect to those disks. So those disks are directly passed through to their server, and it's just 4 servers and a 2U chassis. The chassis is passive. So there's no shared backplane or anything like that. It's all passive, which is good for reliability reasons. The only thing that's shared is the power supplies, which are redundant, and the fans, which are also redundant. So any component that fails, it's easy, hot swap or replaced, and that's no problem.
It's a plug and play.
Plug and play, absolutely.
Those 3 nodes would just be added in your cluster, right? And there's nothing to install on them. Like you just plug it, put the power cable into the outlet,
and the network cables,
and there you go. You will see it in your interface.
You just click add to the cluster, and it's a very simple operation,
right?
And it scales out.
So that's why you call it Lego, because as many as you can add, we have those form factor units that contain nodes that can be added exponentially, right? So we can scale as much as we can.
And one of the key things for me was not being able to scale up to massive, although that was important, but it was also being able to scale down really small.
Yeah.
Because I was working with all the big financials all over the world, and it's very easy for them to just go out and buy a VBlock or buy some other sort of converged infrastructure, $2 million at a pop, and just buy them, one after the other. That's easy.
Yeah.
How do you take the same capabilities and the same benefits and scale it down to a small company or to a medium-sized company?
Yeah.
You can't do that with a VBlock very easily, right? It's a very complicated system.
Exactly.
But Nutanix allowed it to scale down real small.
You were actually elastic before the other companies start to use that word.
Yeah, exactly.
And what's the smallest order we can increment those nodes by? For example, we start with the 𝗬𝗏𝗡𝗃,
and then to a very small node.
Yeah.
And then you can go to a single node that's about half a rack unit now. And you can start from there, and you can just add single nodes on at a time. Or you can start with 3 nodes if it's an enterprise cluster for a data center, and you just add a single node at a time. But there's lots of different form factors, but there's lots of different types of nodes now as well. So you mentioned Oracle earlier on, and licensing, that's a challenge. So sometimes having a node that doesn't provide storage makes sense for licensing reasons. So you might want to separate the nodes that are running the storage controllers to the nodes that are running the compute for the database. Very similar to the way that Exadata works as an engineered system. So we allow compute nodes for those types of use cases.
Yeah, they do have DB nodes.
But it still runs the same hypervisor. Yeah, it still runs the same hypervisor. It's still the same management plane. It's still super easy to use. It's still one-click upgrades, non-disruptive upgrades. It just doesn't run the controller VM because you want all the processes for the database license.
Interesting. All right. Now that I talked about the hardware part, I would like to ask you to explain the role of the VM controller. Could you explain what the VM controller is and what it does actually in the Nutanix architecture?
Yeah, that's really the magic. So the controller virtual machine is the magic that provides all the storage services, all the clustering services, the distributed architecture, and the management plane, all on that single virtual machine once you connect them together into a cluster. And it can start from as small as 1 node. So you can have a 1-node cluster. I mean, you lose some resilience, but you can have a 1-node cluster, a 2-node cluster, a 3-node cluster, a 32-node cluster, whatever, in between. That controller VM runs all the storage services, all the management services, all the control plane, all of the networking services. It communicates with all the physical hardware, and it communicates with the hypervisor, and it communicates with the applications in some cases. It provides the APIs. So that's really the heart of the solution. So that's where all of the goodness that, the ideas that we took from the hyperscaler environments and made it into an enterprise type form factor, that is the controller VM. That's what it does. And over time, as we've scaled and gone to, multi-data center sort of layers, we've pulled out some of the management plane so that you can get a more centralized management experience, but it still all talks to those controller virtual machines at the end of the day. Though nothing works without the controller virtual machines, and that's how we get our linear scalability. And what that means is every time you add a node, you get the same performance and the same amount of additional storage as you did for every other node that's the same type. So if you start with 3 nodes and they're all the same type, and you add on another one, you get the same amount of performance, the same amount of compute, and the experience just grows linearly, which means it's very predictable and it's very consistent. And that was what was missing from 3-tier environments, because if you just scale out disk shelves in a SAN, you don't get any more performance, you just get more capacity.
More capacity, exactly.
And it's always got to be that right mix of capacity and performance as you scale in the right amounts.
Interesting.
So that controller VM is really the secret sauce that's behind everything. And we specifically chose to keep it as a virtual machine. Now, why would you do that? Well, because virtual machines are a really good way of running things.
You bet.
And because it's out in user space. And user space is the best place to run things, because then you don't get synchronization and kernel lockups as a result if something goes wrong. And you don't have to mess with a kernel and solve kernel bugs. So, we fundamentally disagreed when some of our competitors went in kernel. Because that just causes so many problems. And especially if you're going in kernel, but your argument is your platform can run any type of enterprise workload as a virtual machine, you're a hypocrite.
Yes. Doesn't make sense.
Our platform can run any type of enterprise workload as a virtual machine, including the storage, because it works great. We just pass through the storage to the controller VM, and it's almost, as close as you can get to native performance with all the storage services that you want. And that meant also we were able to adopt Intel's SPDK libraries really quickly. We were able to adopt RDMA really quickly and get additional performance and lower latency because we weren't in the kernel. And all those services and all of those libraries were in user space. So there's no locking, there's no conflicts. If something breaks, it doesn't take the whole platform down. There's no purple screens of death as a result of this.
Smart.
So it just made sense. And then it's way easier to scale, way easier to maintain, way easier to upgrade.
Interesting.
Yeah, and more non-disruptive.
It's impressive. I didn't know actually it was running on a VM. So how many would you have does that change like the number of VM controllers if you have 100 nodes or 2 nodes? Or
it's just 1 per node.
Okay, and it's synchronized pretty seamlessly.
Yep.
Whether you have 100 or thousands of them
across the network,
same performance and everything.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, and in terms of resource, it doesn't overconsume the node's resource.
Well, it depends what you need.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just asking is it consuming 50% of the?
No, but that's a great question.
Yes.
No, it's not. It's not going to.
It's just a joke,
unless you want it to. If it's a storage only node, you might want it to consume 50%, right?
Right.
Because its only purpose is to provide lots of storage and lots of performance. And we see that in objects and files configurations. So the controller VM might be 50% of the node, and then the files and objects controllers and the platform software that runs those might be the other 50% of the node. But that's in a very large enterprise workload where you've got 15 or 20 petabytes of objects and file storage being provided. I see. And it's a dedicated solution for that purpose. But in the case of running general virtual machines, the controller VM is back in the old days, it would have been considered a monster, right? Because it had 8 virtual CPUs and 32 gigabytes of memory. Wow, it's huge. But these days, that's not very big.
It's negligible.
Yeah. If you're running databases, you probably want it to be 12 virtual CPUs and 64 gigs of RAM. But, when you've got nodes that have got 96 cores and 2 terabytes of memory, it's not really a big deal.
You bet.
And that has changed over time as we put more services in it. So it has grown a little bit in size. It's certainly grown in terms of its performance capabilities over time. If you string a few nodes together, you can get 1 million IOPS. 5 or 6 nodes together, you got 1 million IOPS. So, and it's still an argument whether you need that performance, sure. But that the controller VM can be wound down and wound up as needed, and that is another benefit of being a virtual machine because that can be done non-disruptively. Yeah. How do you change the performance parameters of an internal system?
Yeah,
without a reboot, you can't do it. It's very difficult.
Yeah. You
got to take the node down. You got to migrate the virtual machines around. Yeah, we can do all of that. We can do so many maintenance operations without any disruption because it's a virtual machine, and we can change the performance characteristics of it easily because it's a virtual machine.
Got it. So I understand
that's a great way of going.
The strategy. It makes total sense actually because it's very secure and performant and very flexible. Interesting. And now this is one of the most disruptive feature from Nutanix. I remember I was talking to you back then, and what I saw in Nutanix technology is that you have to say goodbye to RAID storage, to vSANs. You don't have to ask for storage from a grumpy storage admin anymore, because I used to work in the banking sector, and it was a hell of a relationship we used to have with the vSAN admins when we need to require LUNs and stuff like that. And they were super grumpy with us. And now with Nutanix and hyperconverged technology, you got to say bye to the vSAN. There's no need for any of these tier-in storage, traditional RAD configuration, with especially sometimes when you need to upgrade that kind of config and troubleshooting, because sometimes, the I/O is just going nuts and you don't even know if it's RAD, if it's the hardware, if it's the firmware. Can you elaborate on how Nutanix simplifies the storage management and eliminates completely the traditional storage administrators?
Yeah, I think you hit on some really strong points there. So there's no LUNs, there's no zoning, there's no disk pack configurations, there's no RAID configurations, there's no RAID configurations. There's no vSAN configuration, and we're not talking about the vSAN that you might be familiar with. We're talking about the vSANs that are on the storage switches that connect into the storage arrays. That's a different vSAN.
Yeah, SAN and vSAN. Yeah, but anyways, like the whole thing is wiped out. Like there's no need for SAN.
All of those are gone.
Yeah.
And for very good reasons. If you've got RAID and you've got hot spares, the hot spare becomes a single point of failure and it becomes a single point of performance contention during a rebuild. And those rebuild operations are very slow and very cumbersome, especially if you're using larger disk sizes. And if you've got to be flexible to go to large disk sizes, you need technology that is going to protect data, because that's a number one role of any storage system, is protect data, and rule number 2 is refer to rule number 1. So you need something that's fast, resilient, capable, high performance, and doesn't have a single point of failure. So in a Nutanix architecture, every single disk is a hot spare. Every single disk participates in I/O operations evenly across the cluster. So you don't get hotspots. Everything's even, very predictable in terms of its performance. And that means as the cluster grows, you get faster and faster and faster rebuild times. So we don't do RAID. We just have multiple copies of the data, depending on how many you need, either double mirrored or triple mirrored, depending on the resiliency that you need. And we can layer on top then data reduction technologies, which are also in there, so it's more storage efficient. And the idea is that everybody participates in data operations. So if you have a failure of, say, a 7 terabyte SSD, the recovery operation is done within 12 minutes.
That's insane.
Not 12 hours.
That's insane.
Yeah, so it's just not an emergency anymore when a disk fails.
No.
We had a big retail customer. So retail, if you're not familiar with retail, between October and February, nothing happens because it's Black Friday, Cyber Monday, the Christmas holidays, everything. So there's literally a change freeze from October to February. Now this big retailer has thousands and thousands of Nutanix nodes in their environment, and one morning at about 3 a.m., 16 drives failed. Now, if this happened in a SAN, that is an absolute emergency. That is a critical situation. Everybody's got to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you've got to rebuild everything. And because they're 24/7, they've got transactions coming through.
Of course.
So, of course, the alerts go off. And there's automated support. So the automated support notes go out to the Nutanix support team. So they know that the drives have failed and they're ready to ship replacements if required by the customer. And then we contact the customer next thing in the morning and let them know what's happened. But the thing is, nobody gets up in the morning. Nobody gets a pager alarm because the system just recovered and it just kept on going. Because every single disk is a hot spare and every single disk participates in the recovery. That thing recovered within an hour, 16 drives across the entire environment. They didn't notice any downtime whatsoever. And this happened in about September, October. So when you think the customer replaced the drives? If it's not an emergency anymore, you don't need to replace the drives straight away. When do you think the customer replaced those drives? Yeah. So when do you do it?
Anytime they want.
They did it in February.
Really?
Yeah, they did in February. Yeah, because they had heaps of storage capacity. So you can keep having failures as long as you've still got storage capacity remaining.
That's crazy.
So it doesn't matter how many failures you have if they're consecutive. So what we design for is we design for a targeted number of concurrent failures of different components. So there's no single point of failure. Every node, every drive, every controller participates. This is the advantage because those recovery operations are so fast and it doesn't reduce performance significantly, and everything is slightly reduced evenly. It's very predictable, and it's such a great platform to run. So protecting data, number one, we don't use any NVRAM.
No.
So all of those SANs, they have NVRAM because you've got to have fast write.
Of course.
And then it's battery backed, and then it gets destaged to the physical media. So, I mean, that's a pretty tried and true way of doing things. Now, we purposefully designed our platform to never have NVRAM. We always write persistently to the disks. So there's never an opportunity for anything to get caught in memory, backed by a battery or not. It's always persistently written to disks. We use no battery-backed controllers whatsoever.
It's never lost.
And we have a Chaos monkey in our test labs that goes and pulls the power from behind the servers.
Okay.
It just randomly will pull the power out from behind the servers and then power them back up again as part of our QA process to prove that the data is persistent. But also what we do is we checksum every piece of data and we do a checksum compare every 24 hours. of every piece of data across the entire cluster. And that's to ensure that if there's any issues with any of the drives, because drives can hallucinate, it's like AI can hallucinate, drives can also hallucinate, or they lose bits over time, especially SSDs. We'll find that, we'll mark that block as bad, and we'll re-replicate from somewhere else. This is all completely behind the scenes, under the covers, and customers never notice it.
Wow.
And this is why you don't need RAID anymore. RAID is just an unnecessary overhead that just causes headaches.
It's part of the
past.
past.
It just doesn't recover fast enough.
That's crazy.
It's part of the past.
Yes.
Now, in saying that we don't need RAID doesn't mean that there's no value in the encoding process that RAID was good at.
Yeah. So you still use mirroring. Like you just said that you're using mirroring.
We use mirroring, so we don't use RAID.
Okay.
But as part of our data reduction techniques, we can use erasure coding, which does use parity, but it's a parity combined with the way that we do recoveries. So you know how when a disk goes down, you've got to run on the parity, otherwise you're screwed. You've lost data. And that parity calculation is very slow.
Yeah.
And so you'd have a big performance impact. But because we stripe data at the byte level, we're not relying on a single disk as part of that process. So if you ever erasure code your data to improve your storage efficiency, which is very good for blocks and objects and things like that, the performance penalty is only while that data is being re-encoded and recovered from across the cluster. And if you've got 32 controllers and 32 nodes doing that operation, it's instant. So that performance penalty of the parity calculation is going to last for a couple of minutes, not many hours.
Because it's distributed.
Correct, because it's distributed across the entire environment.
Gotcha.
So we don't use RAID at the disk level. We use RAID at the data. Well, we use erasure coding at the data level for data efficiency purposes for the right type of data, and we use compression at the data level as well for the right type of data, so that you can provide a lot more capacity from the physical storage that you've got behind the system, because everything's being double or triple replicated across the cluster.
Interesting. Well, I'm all in for that kind of word where we don't have to worry about the RAID or vSANs or storage admins.
Yeah.
And what kind of network is it? Is it like a fiber channel or
just Ethernet?
Ethernet.
Just Ethernet everywhere.
Wow.
Just Ethernet everywhere. No need for fiber channel.
Amazing, man.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. So now that we're done with the storage, we're down a VM controller. Nutanix as a software company, we said, I asked you the question earlier, but your CEO mentioned, you actually even told me that it became a software company and stopped recognizing hardware revenue. Yeah. Could you just simplify this? How does that work? Because you're still selling those U blades and stuff, but you don't recognize the revenue.
Yeah, we pass the cost through. So what happens is the partner places the order for the hardware, and then the software goes on top. So it's two different orders now. So we don't get to recognize any of the hardware revenue at all. It's completely passed through. So we only sell the software, and we're not only just a software company now. We're 100% subscription.
Okay.
So it's really just a software subscription company now. So it's, our software meets and the partner goes onto the platform that the customer chooses. And it doesn't have to be the Nutanix engineered platform. It could be a partner engineered platform. It could be a cloud bare metal solution. It could be a colo bare metal solution. So we've got a lot more hardware choice. Now, we do co-engineer the hardware with the software, similar to what Apple does, to make the whole coexist very happily together, to make it very solid and stable and predictable and easy to support. So all the components that are in it are co-engineered between us and the partner organizations.
Okay, so you do have partners, you work with them,
important.
But they actually sell the hardware. Customers will pay those partners.
Absolutely.
And you guys are taking care of the software side.
100%. Everything's through the partner. But it's co-engineered. So we do have hardware engineers in our engineering team that look at the very minute details of those components and work with our partner OEM hardware providers on certifying the different components and coming up with the bill of materials that gets used that's most appropriate, that works with our software. But we totally 100% just sell the software.
Got you.
As a subscription model.
All right. So if I have an issue with my U-Blade, for example, who would I call? I would open a ticket with Nutanix. Yeah. And you guys would take care of that cycle, talking to the partner, get the right people involved and everything.
So most of the time we get the calls, unless it's an OEM like a HP or Dell.
Okay.
And in some cases, their agreement says that the customer calls them first and then they call us.
Okay.
But when it comes to the Nutanix branded appliances or Nutanix branded hardware, all of that support comes through us. Or if it's just our software on top of generic certified hardware, the calls always come to us.
Of course.
And then we handle all the back end. And that even extends into the application and database layer too. So if a customer has a problem with the operating system application database and they think it might be somewhat related to Nutanix, they'll call us and our support will help them. If it's Postgres, it all comes to us and we help even if it's a bug in the Postgres software.
Gotcha.
So our support team is one of our biggest differentiators and one of our biggest killer applications is our support.
Multidisciplinary support. Right?
Absolutely. Everybody's level 3 engineer, cover from end to end, and they'll work with any other support organization that needs to be pulled in and they'll coordinate the result. So our support organization delivers the result. Doesn't matter who has to be involved. And it doesn't matter who from Nutanix organization they have to pull in either. If they have to pull in developers, engineers, database administrators, consultants, whatever, the support engineers take on the responsibility of running the support engagement and delivering the end result. And that is a really important differentiator for us. And our Net Promoter Score has been over 90 ever since I joined the company. And if you look at some of the other IT vendors in the world, they're usually 40 or below. And the range of Net Promoter Score goes from negative 100 to positive 100. So having a score of 90, consistently
that's
for like
a tough job, actually. Yes,
is incredibly difficult.
Yeah, that's really
especially
tough.
when the organization's growing so fast. Yeah. So I mean, we had hundreds of customers 10 years ago. We now got 26,000 customers almost.
Damn.
And the support organization has maintained the quality. That is an incredible thing to be able to do. But it's like, because if something goes wrong, you want to know you've got support organization.
Yeah, and not in 2 weeks, right? Like the same day or the next day, but not in 2 weeks where people say, it's not our team, it's the other team. And then the customer is just left there. So And that's part of being a software company and having all of that choice, you've got to support all of that stuff as well. Yeah.
So not only have we massively exploded our customer numbers, but we massively exploded the types of platforms that we support and where we support those platforms, and we've got to support all of it.
Wow. Kudos, really. Okay, so now we got to the last question about Nutanix, and this one is, where does Nutanix fit in this world of multi-cloud, even neo-cloud and hybrid? What is actually the value prop going forward for a company like Nutanix in this ever-changing landscape?
Yeah. So we provide a lot of capabilities to customers, whether they want to run on-prem or in the cloud or in both. And what we're seeing is a very hybrid landscape and a multi-cloud landscape start to emerge, especially with large enterprises, because they fear lock-in, they want to have commercial leverage, and they want to have flexibility and mobility between different environments. So we're seeing a lot of customers that have some AWS presence, they have some Azure presence, they have some on-prem presence, but they want the flexibility of moving around. And then you imagine being a developer in this landscape. How are you going to develop applications to make the applications work and manage the non-production process, the QA process, the promotion to production across all this different stuff without getting locked into any one location? And that's a challenge, and we're solving that because it's the same Nutanix platform wherever it gets deployed, run everything everywhere in a very efficient, cost-effective manner, and get better value than you would if you're just running native on AWS.
So there is future for Nutanix in the cloud because they're so agnostic, so ubiquitous that you can take it even to another cloud because you didn't have to refactor it. So you're in AWS today, tomorrow you decide to go to Azure, you have a Nutanix workload, you don't have to do much work because it's like a block that you're moving with you. You take in your luggage, but you don't have to change everything in order to move to another cloud. That's one of the...
Yeah, and over time, that migration is going to become a lot more real time as well.
I see.
It's a bit challenging. The laws of physics at the moment make it a bit challenging to basically live migrate between different clouds. Especially the networking side becomes more complicated.
Yes.
But in the future, that's going to be massively simplified, and that will be possible to have a much more dynamic, a much more flexible approach.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're providing, and all API driven, of course. So that's really our play. So we've even had cloud native companies start using Nutanix in the cloud because it makes their lives easier for certain use cases. Because a lot of people is like, well, if you're a cloud native and you've grown up in the cloud as a company, why would you ever use a Nutanix?
Yes, that's the main question that people just ask naively, not because they mean...
It's so obvious if you're coming from on-prem why you'd want to do things differently, but it's not obvious immediately if you're in the cloud as a native why you'd want to use Nutanix. But it's because we can do some of those storage efficiencies that we spoke about. We can do those in the cloud. So you end up paying fractions for the storage that you need, especially if you're copying and cloning and creating all those virtual machines.
Interesting.
It doesn't use any storage space until you start writing. We can use the EC2 instances more efficient, get more workloads in the same amount of CPU and memory. Those types of things add some real value. And then the flexibility that gives you go between clouds as well.
Got you. All right. That's the...
There will be more clouds. There will be more clouds in the future.
Who knows?
I don't know what they are. I don't know when it's going to be.
Who knows? Yeah. But you'll be there.
Continue adding choice.
Of course. Of course. Crazy. Cool. Well, it's time to bring this home. So, Michael, I'd love to give you a chance to share where listeners can connect with you, whether online or on socials. And finally, what's the key takeaway you want to leave to the audience about today's chat around Broadcom, cloud computing, and the future of this industry?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, Michael Webster on LinkedIn. I'm also on Twitter. VCDXNZ001 or Webster on Twitter as well. And the web scale part comes from the scalability of the platform, and we're web scale before it was cool because we took the hyperscale philosophy and built it in. Yeah, so that was always since the start. My email address is pretty easy to figure out. It's my first name and my last name at nutanix.com. And I've got my blog, 𝗏𝗏𝗴𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗏.com, and that's from the traditional name for New Zealand being Land of the Long White Clouds. So 𝗏𝗏𝗴𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗏 is my blog. And what wisdom do I have? Design for performance and design for maximum peak performance, because then the averages will just take care of themselves. And the what is the saying? I've got that saying and I tagged it myself, damn it, because it came originally from Abraham Lincoln. Yes. The bitterness of poor performance lasts long after the sweetness of a cheap price is forgotten.
Oh, spoken like a real statesman. I'll copy it too. Thanks so much, Michael. I hope to see you again when Nutanix will take over the virtualized word. Thanks to Broadcom again, eventually. And
we're working hard on it.
Yeah, you bet. They're going to make it a bit easier, though, the next 2 years for sure. All right. Thanks so much. Take care of yourself.
You too.
And you're welcome anytime for sure.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much.
Thank you,
Appreciate
everybody. See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. And cut. If you like this episode, please share the word, leave a comment, drop a like, subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn, everywhere. That'll mean the word to us. Thank you. You're listening to Tech Beats Unplugged, and I'm your host, Cloud Dude. Catch y'all next time. Peace.